Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Umber Zaidi, and I am the admin for ISGH Job Networking. We're a nonprofit committee that works for you. In addition to resume and interview preparation services, we offer many classes throughout the year so you can build and improve your skills and make yourself more marketable in the workforce, inshallah. We try to assist everyone, so our classes range from GED, ESL, and basic computer skills to more technical classes like Python, SQL, and more. Please scan the QR code on the screen or go to our website, isgh.org/networking, to see what programs we offer. We are looking forward today to having another informative session with you tonight with our wonderful guest speaker, Mr. Riza Backus. Mr. Riza earned an electrical engineering degree from the University of Texas at Arlington. He has 33 years of experience in communication systems and computers. His work spanned debugging, designing, and performance engineering for numerous generations of computer architecture at Texas Instruments, General Dynamics, and Halliburton and Hewlett Packard Enterprise. He is currently a distinguished technologist at HPE, where he is responsible for defining the next generations of computer memory, security, and management. Mr. Riza holds 18 patents in computer memory, server management, operating system, energy management, and computer architecture. Mr. Riza actively mentors scouts, high schoolers, college students, and professionals, and highly encourages you to do the same. Welcome, Mr. Riza.
Thank you very much, Amber. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session tonight. Looking forward to having this discussion with you. I will now share my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
You can see my screen. Very good. So tonight I'm going to be talking about strategy 101. So this is a sort of an introduction to strategy. So what are you going to get out of this? Basically, you should be developing a thirst for learning and applying strategy. That would be like the number one thing you can possibly get out of this session tonight. And you will get a tool to achieve your personal and professional goals. And you will learn about the key behaviors to making strategy work for you. This is the goal of this talk tonight. But before we get into it, I want to play a game with you. And we're going to play this game. You can see, oh, I probably need to put something in the chat to make this work. So in the chat is a document that describes the game, but I'm going to show you on the screen how it's played. If you're attending this session using your phone, you may want to grab a piece of paper and a pen. If you are using your laptop, you can use the document that I placed in the chat.
Brother Riza, can you press enter again? Because we can't see it in the chat yet.
No, I received it, Amber.
Oh, you received it? Maybe there's something with me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the game goes like this. You and three of your friends are adrift in a life raft after your yacht caught on fire in the middle of the ocean. And you salvage a box of matches and 15 items that are shown over here. Maybe I should get a pointer. There's a pointer. There are 15 items that you salvage, and your job is now to rank those 15 items in order of importance as you wait to be rescued. Just put the number in the column that says your ranking. So if you, for instance, if you think that a can of shark repellent is the most important thing, then what you would do is you would put a 1 next to the can of shark repellent. And if you think that, you know, a 25 liters of water is the least important thing, you would put number 15 next to that. So there are 15 items, and so they should be ranked from 1 through 15 in order of importance to you. And then we're going to compare your score, your ranking, to what the US Coast Guard, how they would rank it, and we'll see how you stack up and if you survive or not. So these are the instructions. Open up the document that's in the chat, or get a, if you're doing this on your phone, then you may just want to get a pen and a paper and write down the 15 items that are shown here. Just write the number in the order in which they're shown, and we'll score it. We'll score it later. So just take your time and do that. I will try to add it again for those. Fortunately, I have to stop sharing to do that. I just completely lost it.
Yeah, we received it.
Yep. Okay. And I'll start sharing again. So the instructions are to rank the items shown in order of importance to you as you wait to be rescued. I'll give you another minute or so to do that. If anyone is done, please put a note that says that you're done so I get a sense of if you're making progress in this or not. All right. Okay, so we'll continue with the exercise. So the next step in the exercise is to look at how the Coast Guard ranked those items. And so we'll do that. So there's the ranking from the Coast Guard. And you can see, for instance, the Coast Guard, they ranked the shaving mirror as #1 as being the most important item. And they ranked the sextant, the navigation tool, as the least important, as being number 15. So that's how the Coast Guard ranked those items. Now, what you have to do is figure out how close are you to the Coast Guard, ranking. So in the third column where it says step 3, if you can put in there the difference between your ranking and the Coast Guard ranking. So for instance, if your ranking for the sextant was 10, the difference between the two of them would be 5. If we pick another one, let's say number 11, a can of shark repellent. The Coast Guard ranked that as number 10, and let's say you rank that as number 15. Then here again, the difference is 5. So don't make it a negative number. It's always going to be a positive number. So just what's the difference between your ranking and the Coast Guard ranking? And so if you can quickly put those in the step 3 and add them up. And I'll give you 2 minutes to do that. Give you another minute or so. And if you're done, just put that in the chat and let me know. All right, I see we have a couple of done, so we'll just give it a few more seconds here. Very good, excellent. So now we're going to see how well you did relative to the Coast Guard. Here is the chart that says if you survived or not, if you were able to be rescued or not. So if you scored between 0 and 25, you did really well. Excellent, excellent. You have great survival skills. 26 to 32, good survival skills. 33 to 45, average. Still rescued, but probably took you a while. 46 to 55, yeah, fair, but still rescued. 56 to 70, very poor, probably took you a long time to get rescued. And at the bottom of the list, sorry guys, didn't make it. So if you can put in the chat what your excellent, good, average, fair, poor, just give me an idea how well you did. Um, that that will help. Ooh, oh, Hafiz Nasser, man, sorry, he didn't make it. Um, Anyone else? Very poor. Oh my gosh. Oh, good. We have someone did good. All right. Someone survived. Fair. Very good. All right. So I want you, thanks guys. Thanks for playing along with this. But now you have to think, why did I put this game in a strategy thing? I want you to think as you were prioritizing those items, what were you thinking? You what what were you think? Were you thinking I want to survive a long time? I want to survive long enough to be rescued? Or were you thinking I want to be rescued right now? And what the Coast Guard is saying is that the people who want to be rescued right now and they prioritize their items in order to be rescued as soon as possible, that they're the ones that most likely are going to survive. And so the items that they ranked with the highest priority, if you look at the shaving mirror, it's about attracting attention. You may think, well, what am I going to do with a shaving mirror? Well, you can flash it in the sunlight and it's going to attract attention, whether it's a passing airplane or another ship at sea. 10-liter can of fuel. You can burn the fuel on the water at night to attract attention. Number 3 is 25 liters of water. Well, that's probably a survival thing. Number 4, army rations, again, a survival thing. Number 5, opaque plastic sheet. That's just to get you visibility. But the things that they ranked the highest were the things that were intended to attract attention. Um, Things that rank to lower on the scale, like a sextant, you know, you're not, if you're adrift in a rubber raft, a sextant is not going to help you navigate. You're not going anywhere except where the tide is taking you. So it doesn't help you to navigate. Mosquito netting, you know, there's no mosquitoes at sea. So you get a sense of how this plays out. But the bottom line is that you made a set of choices, and that's what we want to focus on today. That strategy is about choices. It's making choices. It's making choices to do things or not to do things, to do something or not to do something. And so you'll see this. I just wanted to highlight that one element of strategy by this using this game. And you'll see it several times in the presentation. So many of us who work in corporate America, we have the opportunity to sit in strategy sessions where we try to figure out how we can increase revenue and profit margin or gain more customers, or increase sales, increase production, reduce fallout, improve quality, improve customer satisfaction. All of these things we sit in many team meetings and off-site sessions, and we brainstorm and come up with grand ideas. And a lot of these strategy sessions is really about getting customers to spend more money on our company. So that is give more money to our company through our products, through our services. That's what it's about. But we as an individual, what are we thinking about? How do I play into this? The reality is it's a different mechanism that's in play in the background. And that is, we want the company to give us more of their money. We want, on one hand, right, the company is trying to get more money from the customers, but on the other hand, we're trying to do a good job so that the company can give me more money. And when we think of strategy, we have to see the whole picture. We have to train ourselves to see the whole picture. We have to train ourselves to see both ends of a transaction. And we have to see an entire spectrum of activity and where we fit in that spectrum. And so I wanted to share that cartoon with you to get you to understand that it's not necessarily just what the company is asking us to do, that there is a bigger picture at play, and what role are we playing in that picture. So what is strategy? So strategy is really about architecting a desired outcome. You want something to happen, right? That it's probably not going to happen naturally, or maybe it will happen naturally, but you want something to happen. You want to get married. You want to have children. You want to have a degree. You want to get a job. You want to get a promotion. You want your business that you already have to grow. Maybe you have one location, you want to grow to 2 locations, or maybe you want to double your revenue. Maybe you want to double your profit margin. There's so many things. Maybe you're having a problem with a supplier and you would like to change that dynamic with that supplier from one that's adversarial to one that's more friendly. Um, and so maybe you're having a problem with a customer and you want to change that. So you can use strategy to architect a different outcome. Now, obviously, everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we have to do our part. And so we can use strategy to change the course of events. So this is important. Strategy is about architecting a desired outcome. It's about engineering a change. It's engineering a different result that you would like to see. And how do we do that? We can do that by making an iterative set of choices. And that involves thinking, planning, and managing. Thinking, planning, managing. And you can see the graphic on the lower right-hand corner there, how integrated those 4 words are. That's by design. We want you to think that strategy is not a 100-page document that sits on a shelf that the brainiacs in the company, put together, or those in charge of a company, or those in charge of the results put together. That's not a strategy. That's just a collection of pieces of paper. Strategy is a living thing. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving to meet the needs of the time and to meet the conditions of what's going on around you. We may start out with one strategy today and it has a certain plan and we're managing, but our conditions change around us. We've all had to adapt to the pandemic because the whole world changed around us. In a matter of weeks, everything was upside down. We couldn't find toilet paper. We had to strategize. How am I going to get toilet paper? We couldn't work in the office, and we had to figure out how to use Zoom and Teams and a whole host of other tools that we weren't very familiar with. And so strategy is not a thing that's fixed. It's living, it's dynamic, it's changing, it's evolving with the times. If we do these things, if we do the thinking, the planning, and the managing. And notice these arrows are sort of all intertwined here. There's thinking to planning, there's planning to managing, there's managing to thinking. All of these interactions are happening almost simultaneously. It is not a phased approach. It's not like we spend a week thinking, and then we spend a week planning, and then we spend 4 years managing. No, that kind of static strategy doesn't work. It's not effective. So strategy is making these constant changes, always iterating on these, on what your goal is, thinking about it, planning it, and managing it. Strategy, it can be used to frame the approach of creating value. And what do I mean by that? Is that if we say we want to do something, when I say frame the approach. If we say we want to do something, it also means that I will not do something else. So if I have a business and my business is to sell handbags, I am making a very clear choice to sell handbags. I'm also making a very clear choice that I will not be selling cars, right? I am not selling groceries. I am selling handbags. And it's important to be able to articulate what you're doing and what you're not doing. And sometimes we get confused because we didn't clearly articulate what we're not going to do. When someone is studying, you say, okay, I'm going to study, I'm going to college, I'm going to university to study to be a doctor. And in making that statement, we have to be conscious that I am also saying simultaneously that I am not studying to be a lawyer. I am not studying to be an auto repair mechanic. I am not studying to be a business person. You make very clear choices. And so that's how you start to frame what it is that you're going to do. And in doing so, you make choices about what you do and what you will not do, what you will do and what you will not do. And you have to be conscious about the context in which we live, the context in which we operate, the context in which the situation keeps evolving. We have to know what's going on around us. So it's not like, you know, I would like my son to go to Harvard, right? But my son scored, 700 on the SAT. Well, I don't think he's going to go to Harvard with that. So we have to be conscious of the context. We have to know what is possible. Where are the boundaries of the reality in which we can operate? And then we iterate. We keep iterating between these things, the thinking stage, the planning stage, and the managing stage. We may get through a thinking stage, we may get through a planning stage, and when we get to managing, we'll figure out, hey, I signed up this supplier, but he's not delivering. My supplier is not delivering. So what do I have to do? I have to go back to the thinking stage and figure out, how do I either get the supplier to deliver on what they promise us or get another supplier? And in each one of those choices, there are going to be consequences. There may be breach of contract. They may be, legal uh, uh, consequences for my actions and their actions. So, but we have to keep going back and forth. We always have to understand what's happening and keep making decisions to move along in the direction that we want to do, that we want to go to. And so I'm going to talk briefly about what strategy is not. So strategy is not a mission statement. Sometimes, you know, we have it. I know at my workplace, many times people say, hey, this is our strategy. Our strategy is to increase our revenue by 10% in the next year. Well, that in itself is not a strategy. It is an element of strategy, but it is not strategy in itself. They can add a plan to it and say, hey, this is our plan for increasing our revenue, or this is our plan for increasing our customer satisfaction, or here's my plan for how I'm going to get a medical degree, or here's my plan for how I'm going to get a promotion. That in itself is not strategy. It's a plan. Strategy needs other elements to it. Strategy is not about optimizing my current business. That's a management thing. That's something that's going to happen because I want to make that happen. But optimizing my current business model or optimizing my SAT score is not a strategy in itself. It may be an element of a plan of a strategy, but in itself, it is not. It is not strategy. Copying what someone else does. This is a very interesting time we live in, and many of the companies that I deal with, they are giants in their own rights, and we deal with people who have are companies that have done really well, such as Apple, Amazon, Uber, you know, uh, Salesforce.com. Many people are um, many companies did really well, and you see many startups trying to emulate what they did, and the vast majority of them cannot emulate what these big companies did. So many companies and so many books have been written about the Apple model, how they became successful, and so many companies and strategists have been trying to emulate that without success. So copying another company is not it's not uh, is not a strategy in itself, but it could be an element in the strategy. So we have to be careful about, when we think about strategy, how which elements we incorporate and which elements we do not incorporate. I see a question here. For most people, they're already in the workforce and already struggling with time. How can they have enough time for strategic planning? As you mentioned, strategy is live. So this is an awesome question. Thank you very much, Brother Fawad. Awesome question. Um, we make time for many things in our lives, and this is a choice that we have to make. Back to the choices. This is a choice. We can make a choice to be strategic. We can make a choice to be purposeful. We can make a choice to block out time to do something, to do the thinking, to do the planning, to do the managing for uh, changing the outcome of something. We have to make that strategic choice. We have to make that choice that says, I am going to be disciplined enough to block out time to do something that I know is going to be beneficial. If not, we're just running on the treadmill. We just keep running on the treadmill and it doesn't change. So we have to purposely make a change. So thank you for that question. So now we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these elements of strategy: thinking, planning, managing. In the thinking phase, we have to define our North Star. What is our aspirational goal? And how am I going to get there? What's the future state that I want to see? And if you think of grand schemes, I would like to solve world hunger. Where do you start? Well, you can start in a little, let's say I map out 5 blocks, 5 city blocks. I say, in these 5 city blocks, I am going to solve hunger. I am going to um, figure out a way to reduce the number of people and the amount of time that people suffer from hunger in these 5 city blocks. Or you can pick 2 city blocks, and you learn your lessons. You figure out what works, what doesn't work, and how you get from A to B. And over time, you can go from 5 city blocks to 10 city blocks to a city, to a zip code, to a state, and figure out how things will scale. Define your North Star. Your North Star is your aspirational goal. This is how I would like to see the world change. And then develop some intermediate steps on how you can get there. But in order to develop those intermediate steps, you have to know where you are right now. What is your current state? What is the condition on the ground right now? If I'm trying to get into college, what's my SAT score? How much do I have to bump it up? If I'm trying to get a job, how many job interviews have I secured? How good is my resume? How many contacts have I made? How many job applications have I done? You have to know What is your current state? What have I been turned down for? Why was I turned down? How many interviews did I have that were not successful? You have to know what your current state is. What's your experience? What's your education level? Maybe you're a business person and you're trying to go into consulting. Well, what skills do I need to change to go into a different course, to change my course of employment? And the other piece of thinking in the thinking stage is we cannot think by ourselves. We have to engage a diverse set of opinions, from the ones that we consider to be the silliest to the ones that we think are the most provocative and maybe the most can be lead us to the best success. We need to consider all of the opinions in between, because sometimes it's the silliest ideas that will trigger a really smart idea. So consider it. Listen to people. Listen to what people have to say and how they say it and what they tell you. You don't have to dismiss everyone out of hand, but listen carefully. Someone is telling you a very important message. It is you as the receiver who has to be willing to accept that message. So in the thinking phase, think about where you want to go, how you want to see the world change. Look at your current state and think about the future state. How am I going to get to that change? What do I need to do to get there? And solicit opinions, get opinions from lots of people, and that will help you through this. And the next one, in the planning stage, you have to look at what must be true. If I want to go from my current state to a future state, from a current condition to a future condition, I have to ask this question: what must be true for that future state to happen? And some of the things that we have to consider are, what resources do I need? Do I need financial resources? Do I need skills? What skills do I need? Um, uh, what kind of uh, what kind of employees do I need? What kind of equipment do I need? Do I need to lease? Do I need to own? Do I need to borrow? What do I need to get this job done? What kind of factory would I need to get this job done, to moving from my current state to a future state? That's the first question. What resources do I need? The second question is, what technologies do I need? And can I develop those technologies in-house? So maybe I'm a programmer. I can write an app that will blast my resume to 100,000 employers at one time, right? Can I develop that myself? Do I need to purchase it? Do I need to lease it? Uh, what what do I have to do to what kinds of technologies do I need to get there? I need to move this here. I'm going to lose that. Um, and also, do I partner? Do I partner with someone who has that technology? And what about emerging technologies that are not fully developed yet? What about security and supply chain? The supply chain is a big issue all over the world right now. Lots of people are clamoring for goods, for services, just because of problems in the supply chain. So what's needed? And also, what kind of structure do I need to have in place? What kind of organizational structure do I need that's going to make this happen, that's going to make this future state possible? And you can think of your organizational structure in terms of, you have a president and CEO, you have VPs, you have VP of engineering, you have VP of marketing, you have VP of supplies, you have VP of the factory. You have all of these people in place. What do you need? What kind of relationship do you need with your vendors, with your suppliers? And what relationship do you need with your customers? What's the structure? What's the relationship? And these things, you sometimes, if you're starting from scratch, you have to make small steps, and then you slowly build up. But just to give you an example, just sort of not work related, I have a desire to be a grandfather, right? And so I can imagine a future state in which I can be a grandfather. But now I have to figure out, well, I have a son. I need to get my son married, and then they can start to think about having children. But I need to sort of encourage him along the way, right? So what's the structure? I need to have a son. My son needs to get married, right? So that's the structure that needs to be in place. So inshallah, I will have the opportunity to be a grandfather. I hope that makes sense. And that applies whether it's business or personal. We have to think, what's the structure that is needed? Next, we're going to talk about, did not advance. We're going to talk about managing. So in the managing phase, basically you're implementing the plan, but it's not just you implement the plan and you're done. It's very important that you you scale up, you scale up accordingly, according to your capabilities, that you start small and don't grow too fast or don't remain stagnant, but you have to scale up. Start small and scale up. And you're scaling up your resources, your facilities, your expenses, your revenue. And as you're scaling up, look at every opportunity, every activity that's happening, and do post-mortem, do feedback, get feedback from what's going on. Are you making progress towards your North Star? Are you really making progress towards your future state? Are you being diverted? What about, how can your resources perform better? How can your partners, your employers, your employee equipment, your funds, how can they perform better? How can your suppliers and contractors do better? And are you meeting your quality goals? Are you meeting your profit goals? What about your customer satisfaction goals? You have to build in to your planning mechanisms for feedback and constant feedback, because that's what's going to tell you if you are on track. And once you get into this habit of thinking, of planning, and managing towards your aspirational goal, towards your North Star, I tell you, it's like riding a bike, because you're going to do it automatically. You're going to do it over and over and over again. But you have to make that first choice, that this is what I'm going to do. So now I want to share with you some opportunities for future learning. And I want to encourage you to be an avid learner. I talked briefly about feedback. The debriefing room, is an opportunity to learn from every experience. Every time something happens, every event, every quarter, we want to be able to look back and say, what went well, what didn't go well, and what can we change? Start, stop, continue. And that's our learning. That's part of getting better all the time. That's part of our experience. That's part of our wisdom that we develop. And we always find time to reflect and act. Reflect separately and act separately. If we don't make time for these things, our time will be consumed with other things that I guarantee you are not as productive in the long run. In the long run, if we spend time thinking through our actions, in the long run, we'll be much better off. Play to Win by Laffey and Martin is one of the first books I read on strategy. Playing to Win, I highly recommend it. So you can look up their YouTube videos as well, Laffey and Martin, and you will see lots of content on YouTube about Playing to Win. The book, I think, is about $25. In fact, I will put a link shortly um, in the chat for these things. Another one is this Navigating the Dozens of Different Strategy Options by Reeves, Hannes, and Sinha. That's a very interesting, that's a article on the web. And then there's also a TED Talk by Martin Reeves, same guy that wrote Navigating the Dozens of Different Strategies. So I'll put those in the chat shortly. And with that, that's the end of my talk. So I just want to reiterate that strategy is about architecting a future state. Uh, it's about thinking, it's about planning, and it's about managing. So with that, I thank you, and I open it up to questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Riza. Very informative, mashallah. We
I
do
will
have a
stop
couple of
sharing.
questions in our chat and also some that we received in the email. Um, First of all, there is someone who is asking in the chat. Sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, do we have to do all of our strategy on paper or in our head, or is there a software available that can help strategize for individual use?
Yeah, well, certainly you want to write things down. I tell you, when you want to write down, yes, there are software tools available. There are tons of them that are available. And I looked at a few. I didn't really find any that match the kind of upbringing that I had in strategy. Obviously, I have some biases based on the things that I learned. But certainly you want to write them down. But here's what you want to have in your mind when you think about writing down your strategy, and that is when you write down your final, your your aspirational goal, your plan, and your feedback mechanism. When you write these things down, anyone in your organization should be able to, within 2 minutes, tell you what it says. And they should remember that a week later and a month later and a year later. It Writing a 100-page document, no one's going to read it and no one's going to know what your strategy is. So an important part of strategy is to be concise and to be able to communicate. So yes, please do write things down. Write down your current state, write down your future state, write down your and in doing your analysis of your current state, you have to think, in business school, they tell you about SWOT, they tell you about Porter's forces, they tell you all kinds of things, right? Write those things down. That tells you where you are and gives you insight into how you can project to your next state. Very good question. Thank you.
We have another question. How long does it take for somebody to mature in strategy?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Very interesting. Yes. Hmm. I have to think about that for a while. It depends. I would say it depends on how much you apply strategy. If you only think about strategy once a year at your company workshop, your company's strategic workshop, right? I think it will take you a long time. Uh, you know, you may never get to it. And certainly reading a lot of diverse ideas on strategy is very important. You don't have to be locked in to one thing. And that's why I chose this article about navigating the dozens of different strategy options. It's strategy differs depending on your situation. And so you may go from, let's say you are you're in a retail industry, and you develop some strategic skills, but then maybe you move to a manufacturing business. You'll have to develop new strategic skills because while some of the fundamentals of thinking, planning, and managing are transferable, some of the minutia of deploying strategy in a different industry could be different. So, it depends. Sorry.
No, that was a very open-ended question, so
Yes.
I'm sure it was a little difficult to answer. Another question we have is, what is the difference between future state and North Star?
Ah, very good question. So the future state is, if you think of the North Star as your aspiration, this is my aspirational goal. This is my grand scheme. I want to solve world hunger. And I know in the back of my mind that I can't get there, but maybe I can do something at a much smaller level. Maybe I can do something at my community level, or my city level, or my zip code level. So you can think of that as, hey, this is one future state that I can use as a stepping stone to another future state. And so while the aspirational goal may not be achievable, or the North Star may not be achievable or not achievable immediately, there are intermediate steps that we can take that each represents a future state that we can achieve.
Okay, great. And another question we have is, why do you have to iterate on thinking, planning, and managing? Why can't you do them in order?
It's tempting to do them in order. The problem with that is, if you think, and this is many companies, very successful companies do this. They have a thinking session, they have a planning session, and then they implement a program for 4 years and never go back to the thinking and the planning. And they wonder why their sales are dropping off, right? It's because their conditions change. The economy changes, the consumer behavior changes, pandemic happens, inflation happens. So many things change on a weekly, on a monthly basis. So it's important to go back and see, are we making progress towards that aspirational goal? Are we making progress towards that future state? And if not, let's adjust. Let's come up with, maybe there's a new competitor that came on the block and just is just knocking my socks off. So we have to come up with a different strategy of how do we deal with this new competitor. On the other hand, a competitor may just go bankrupt, and we have to adjust to that. Oh, a competitor went bankrupt. Are we next, or are we just going to, get a windfall from because a competitor went bankrupt? And how do we deal with that? So it's important that we keep going back to the thing, and at least on a quarterly basis, we go back to that thinking stage, make sure our plan is order, and keep managing with our feedback.
We're going to take one last question before we wrap up. And it is, what is the best way to communicate or get your team to buy into your strategy?
Actually, that's an important question, very important question. But we have to get buy-in. My strategy is not a strategy unless everyone is bought in. Everyone has to be bought in. And the way people get bought in into your strategy is if they are influential in developing that strategy. It doesn't mean that you have to accept all of their ideas, but it is important that you give them the platform to articulate their ideas and be part of the conversation. They have to be part of the conversation. Once they are part of the conversation, they feel part of the process. They feel that they're part of the process. And so they can buy into it. And that way, they will adopt a strategy that you all come up together with. It's not that just one person comes up with the strategy. And that's why earlier on, I, I mentioned that you have to seek diverse opinions, because that's what builds a great strategy.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Riza, for taking the
Thank
time
you.
once again and spending your evening with us. I hope everyone enjoyed this webinar. We will be back next week with a new webinar on apps to use for job searches. Please remember to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And please let us know what topics you'd like to hear about in the future. Thank you for attending once again. Have a great evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Welcome. Salam.